Today, we're talking about something that every high-achieving entrepreneurial male deals with: control. Why do we crave it? How does it limit us? And how learning to let it go can actually give us more power in life. I'm going to give you some practical things that you can shift in your business that will allow you to move from like full being controlling to being in control. Very different, right? When you think you're in control, you're actually out of control. And when you're out of control, you're in control. Welcome to the Inside Man podcast. I'm Gary Kadi. You can call me GK. And today we're talking about something that every high-achieving entrepreneurial male deals with: control. Why do we crave it? How does it limit us? And how learning to let it go can actually give us more power in life. In this episode, I'm going to share why the need for control is just an illusion, and it actually stifles growth in relationships, and the mindset shift that will help you embrace trusting without losing your edge. I'm going to give you some practical things that you can shift in your business that will allow you to move from like full being controlling and being a controller to being in control. Very different, right? It's sort of like micromanaging rather than being a person that is like on top of things and letting go, but still maintaining a control and sleeping at night, knowing things are getting handled. Because I'm a control freak. I don't know about you, but I'm a rigorous control freak. When you think you're in control, you're actually out of control. And when you're out of control, you're in control. I'm going to say it again. When you think you're in control, you're out of control. And when you're out of control, you're in control. Meaning being detached from an outcome. You know, we as men tend to be locked in, getting the home runs and getting the touchdowns and getting the goals and really locked into outcomes. But when we start looking to working on what gets us to the outcome, that journey to the outcome, and doing, little things each day, and having measures to ensure that we're moving in the right direction, it really takes down the pressure. It really shifts how we're going to be about interacting with our team. We're not going to be on edge all the time. I was there. Why control feels like power, but it really isn't. I called it, I was the 6-year-old CEO. I was traumatized. My father used to physically hit me, verbally abuse me. If I got an A, I needed an A+. Never enough, wasn't around for my game. So I was trying to prove. I talk about the arc of a man, and the first arc of a man is usually in the octagon, the brawl with our fathers. And for validation, right? It's our fathers are someone who played that role. And what happens is we tend not to create our world for that, but we tend to create control so we can survive. It's a survival mechanism, right? And control really serves us. It's amazing. Many high achievers equate control with success, but it often holds us back. It's our coping mechanism. It's how we think we are in control, but you're really not. See, the illusion of control can stifle growth. It can strain relationships, especially if you're trying to control, a child. Like, it doesn't work, right? If you try to parent the way you lead your team, and often how we're leading our team isn't effective, and it's usually through control or manipulation, right? So this idea of being out of control is scary. But I'm just bringing that into view for you so that you can start seeing that what I'm saying is, you take the actions, you come from the right place, you measure your progress toward an outcome. You have to have outcomes, obviously, in business, but it's like being detached from how to get there and being detached from, sometimes when, if you can, obviously we have to make money for a certain period of time and things like that. And I'm going to show you a tool that I invented because I was so mired in this, and I didn't know. I couldn't see that I was such a control freak. I didn't know. Like, after a while, I used to, tell myself, I'm a control freak, but like, I didn't want to be, because it's exhausting being a control freak. Like, I'm always thinking 30 steps ahead, and the impending doom that if I don't get X, then Y doesn't happen, then Z, I'm going to explode. And then I'm going to go back to being that 6-year-old that was like just traumatized as a kid. See, the ego mind doesn't like not knowing. So that's part of this. Like, I'm not going to have you go from being fully detached to, since we're fully attached, because I was there. It's a gradient process. And again, all these things that I'm going to be bringing to you are gradient items that when you see an opening and when you do one small thing, you start seeing, wow, that worked. I'm going to do more of that. Rather than saying, hey, you need to be fully detached. You need to be fully not knowing. That's not going to work. So the idea of just standing in a place of not knowing and releasing control slowly is key to the whole thing. So I want to give you a story. As you know, I coach entrepreneurs, high achieving men. And I want to talk about a leader who is like, I walked in and I did my analysis. I do an immersion when I first start working with clients. And I sat there and I just did this complete immersion. And when I did a 360-degree review of his team and his direct reports, we got really clear that they loved him. They loved the purpose and the business themselves that they were in, but the approach, and they dealt with it, like they put up with it because they could see the greatness inside this leader, but they wish it was different, right? And most of the time, we reach levels as high-achieving male entrepreneurs. Some people just leave us the F alone. Just leave me alone. And I don't want to be questioned. And I don't, for me, I was an alcoholic, so it was really good. I couldn't be fired, right? Now, I could be fired by clients, but I always had this thing where I always served clients no matter what. I always showed up for work no matter what. But was I at my best every day? No, right? So, but people could leave me alone and I could do what I wanted. And that was a form of control too. And I didn't realize that, right? But what I realized is, and when I work with this guy, and there's many of these men around, I was one of them. So it was easy for me to coach him because everything that I coach from, I've done it myself first in my own business or businesses. And then, I codify it and then I put it in a system and articulate it in a way you can understand it. And then we put a structure in place. I'm going to share a piece of that today in today's podcast. But, the client had everything. He had to be, everything had to run through him. So I always said all roads had to go through the center of the town, which was him. And he had little time. The cost of this for him was like he was complaining because he had no time for family, no time for the things that he loved, no time to work out or take care of his health. He was fat. He was drunk. He was angry. By the way, anger usually masks sadness for us men. Like anger is a good place where we can get angry. People go away and they leave us alone. And we never tend to the sadness that's really driving the anger. So it's really a profound thing. You see how the layers really start piling up as we go into our business and spend years doing it. And what I found was, we find a coping mechanism that has us be successful and we just keep applying it. The problem as you evolve in your business is that when you go from 0 to 500,000, that's one level. You can get away with being a control freak in that way. The problem is when you look to scale, if you don't get out of the middle of your business and start empowering others and nurturing others along to carry it forward, what ends up happening is what happened with this guy. And sadly, he got in a position where he had diverticulitis and was in the hospital for like a week, couldn't even get out of it. And the pain was like ridiculous. And the things that were happening were like, everything took like 6 times as long when I analyzed it. Like literally 6 times as long. Like a project that would take typically a month would take 6. His business couldn't scale and he was stuck there for like years. So he hired me to get to the root cause. And the thing about me is like, I can be the bridge between the team of what the team actually needs, where you are in your growth strategy. Are you 500 to a million here, 8 figures, 9 figures, like where are you? And then I'm a strategist, so I can help strategically give you what there is to do. And then no one usually, and I never call people out. I just educate my it's doctor, lawyer, CPA, manufacturer, whatever business you're in, right? I don't need to know the specific business, but I know the mechanics of the strategy of scaling a business. And that's where I come in and I find out where the stops are. And then, in this case, most of the time, it's an entrepreneur will like fall flat on their butt. Like for me, I shared the story. I was in Manhattan. I was multitasking and I got hit on a pickup, by a pickup truck on a bike. And that's my wake up call. Nearly died. And, this guy's, his health is failing him. And I can go on and on with the stories of the men that actually go through this, divorce, the kids, the willingness to delegate and trust others creates hidden problems. Like micromanaging attracts irresponsible team members. So like you'll be sitting there, and I was blaming my team members, but what happens is because the way the business is structured based upon the control freak that's at the head of it, me, attracts irresponsible team members. So it wasn't until I shifted that I had this, my A team. I would always complain like, hiring sucks. And you could justify it today because hiring sucks today. But if you have a high purpose, you have systematic processes, you have a vehicle that's packaged, that it's a product that your team buys every day, you package your business that way, all of a sudden you're enrolling them into what you stand for and giving them the space, not to be puppets on a string, but rather to be empowered where their values are aligned to the company's values. This is your senior people. And when you can get that happening, they're the ones that show up if the alarm goes off at one of your retail outlets, right? Like the truly evangelistic people that you look out and you go, man, I wish I had 10 of those. You can create 10 of those. It's totally possible, but you can't do it if you're the control freak at the center of the game, right? So the transformation that happened actually for this group is where and this example of the guy with diverticulitis in the hospital and going, okay, it's like, if you don't get this on your own choice, the universe will knock your booty down. It will knock you down. You'll have some circumstance that will say, your holy shit moment, like, I better pay attention to this. For me, I didn't get it fully when I got hit by a pickup truck. I got it when I fell off my mountain bike and I broke my femur, my right hip, and my clavicle. And I couldn't walk. I had to learn how to walk again. And I was in the hospital for over a month. That was my final wake up call. So, it takes what it takes, right? Depending on how hard-headed or self-righteous we are, right? So the transformation of letting go and empowering others is really having control and not being controlling. Let me explain. So this is how I figured it out. Like dictatorships are controlling, like Mussolini and Hitler and Napoleon. Those are dictators. They they got in there and they said how it goes and they were forcing it. It was like force versus power. See, power is when you set up, let me give you a power way to control things in your business and in your life. By the way, this is how to have it all as a high achieving man. The same thing I'm giving you for your business, we can apply to your life. And we do. That's what we're going to be doing here. We're building this thing out. And the key thing here is traffic signals. So traffic signals are a form of control. So you can go pretty much anywhere in the world and you have the same traffic signals. Now, there's some rules that are different. Like in England, you drive on the left, not the right, and things like that. But overall, it's a universal control feature. And that's the type of control I want to give you, not the controlling where you have to be you are the controller. Because people get resentful when they're dealing with a dictator or a micromanager or a controller. I want you to really look at once I said, okay, I'm a dictator, I'm a force guy, right? Because I do that for myself. I speak to myself that way. I try to control myself. When you do it for yourself, you impose that on others and you think that that's the right way to do it. Now, it does get you to 500,000. It does get you to 1 million. It's not going to get you to the multiples that you want, right? And we know that. So here's how to shift from controlling the control addiction to peace and freedom, okay? First is you have to get and acknowledge the fact that there's not trust there. See, if there was trust present, like you can give something away and know that it was going to come back. And it doesn't always come back, but like that's a big problem, right? For us control freaks. So the first thing I taught and I put in place was something called management by agreement. Management by agreement is who's going to do it, what are you going to do, by when are you going to get it done? This is form of a traffic signal in your business. Who, what, and by when. So now I don't tell people what to do. I ask them. I go, Judith, can you get this report done that gives me the details of all my KPIs for the months of January through June by Friday? They say yes. Now it's a verbal contract. Now you have to teach your team that this is how you're going to start doing it. So you have to teach them about the distinction of management by agreement And then you have to give them the three components, who, what, and by when. And then what you need to do is you either did that or didn't do it. So if Judith gets it and she goes, I can't get it done by Friday. You go, Gary, I need to make a new agreement. She says, I need to make a new agreement. I'm not going to make Friday. Can I have Saturday? Sure. Now that it's restored. So there's either a missing agreement or a broken agreement. All inefficiencies or upsets, every inefficiency, every upset in a business comes from one of two things: a missing agreement or a broken agreement. A missing agreement or a broken agreement. And when you have a missing agreement or a broken agreement, now all there is to do is deal in facts, not emotions. See, we control freaks emotionally react when something's not done, but there was no structure and no agreement. And there's an expectation over there, and an expectation over here. Because, my clock says now, there's no numbers on it. I want everything done now or yesterday. I also have a clock that says yesterday. So I like getting shit done. That's just the way I work. I'm like, why think about it? We don't have to think about it. Let's just get it done. Now, team members don't always do that. And this is where they get burnt out, overwhelmed, and then your attrition rate goes through the roof. And then, they go on Glassdoor and then you get a 2 rating and then you can't attract team members and then you're crashing your business. So been there, done that. And so management by agreement is really good. And when you fail at this, it's your teacher. So letting go doesn't mean losing control. It means creating better control. And when you put these better controls in, because you failed at the old way of micromanaging, now you put agreements in, and now all of a sudden you have a game changer. So I want to break out the Madden Telestrator for us today. Another tool that creates the traffic pattern for your business, right? So you're not going to have to dictate anymore. You're going to put the strategy in place, educate your team on the strategy, and then from there, you're going to not live in a defaulted life. Like this is the way your life, you have no time, maybe not the money that you want, whatever it is. You're going to live in a design life. So this is how you design it. So I'm going to pull up my screen now. Just give me a second while I pull up my Telestrator. I love Madden Telestrator. By the way, I kick my son in Madden. I kick his ass. Don't tell anybody. Like he's probably watching right now. So he knows that Madden, I kick his ass. So the thing I love about Madden is every generation knows about it because I used to watch the football games with him doing this on the Telestrator. My son, we play the game Madden and it's pretty cool. So anyway, the first thing I want you to do is I want you to identify that money and time you want to uncollapse money and time. So you start with how much money you want to make. So let's just say you want to do 5 million, right? So this is how you get more time off and create money. This is the strategy. So you want to do 5 million. Let's say you're 20% profit. So that gives you $1 million a year annually. And that's every business I like to create. I believe every entrepreneur should be netting out $1 million a year, minimally. I mean, that you go through all this hell, minimally that. I know a lot of you guys are doing more than that, but minimally for those guys that aren't, I want you to get to $1 million. So that's why I use this as an example. The next thing is how do you want to work? So you block the time off that you're going to put in to create that $1 million in net. So you go, I'm going to work 4 days a week. All right. So, okay. You get a 3-day weekend, whatever you want to do, take Mondays off. I used to like taking Mondays off because it was just Mondays suck. So I'm like, I'm going to take Monday off. Friday's it's dead. So it's like working 3.5 days. It's great. And then I take 8 weeks off. I started out with 8 and then I went to 12. Now I have 52 and then I work when I want. So it's pretty awesome. That's what I want for you. So if you're 4 weeks, 4 days a week times 44 weeks, that's 176 days. So if you take 5 million and divide it by 176 days, I think it's like 28,000. Let's just call it $29,000. So now you got to create $29,000 a day in your business, right? So you back into it. And here's how you eat an elephant. And here's how you get your control. I'm giving you this example because this is how you're going to start letting go. Because and a lot of us business owners, yes, we look at numbers. Sometimes we're looking at history, and the problem is it's the history. We want to look at leading indicators. And when you put leading indicators in, that is porn for the control freak, because it's like, it's like awesomeness. It's like, I know I did 29,000, my brain comes down. If I don't do 29,000, I know I need to put my attention. If I'm doing 5,000 and I see a succession of those days, some days I do 40, some days I do 5, but at least every day You want to get rid of this up and down stuff because that's also a control freakism. And you want to get this levelness. All right. And how do you do that? Well, you bonus your team. You bonus your team on daily. So you bonus them daily and you pay them monthly as long as they collect 29,000 times however many days there was that month. Okay. So now they have skin in the game to make sure it's all collected. It's in the bank. So you're bonusing on the money you have. And then every day you're going to give them, let's say $100 for each person each day. And let's say, that's 20 days you're working or whatever. That's, a nice little $2,000, $24,000 a year, bonus. And the key thing is that you bring attention to it. So you have a daily huddle. And I love daily huddles because we do inspiration there. We read a quote. Everybody brings their numbers. We look at the numbers. We see what worked, what didn't in that day, what we're looking at for today and what we're looking at for tomorrow, yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And then from there, we put in training. So you're going to learn the gaps. But here's what I love about this. You flip the script. How often did you want to train your team? Or, 9 out of 10 people are not training their team, to get better in coordinates to the numbers. But because your team has skin in the game, and now they're going to want to get better at their craft. Now you're in the buyer's seat. And I want to close with the control freaks guide of being in the buyer's seat. So you're going to meet Judith. I just found out. This is great news. She's my wife. You're going to get to meet her. And she taught me this idea of being in the buyer's seat because wherever she goes, she's at peace and she's running the show with me, with my son, with my dog. She's alpha on all of us and she does it with ease. She does it with joy. She's like, hardly ever see her stressed. I'm like, I look for things like this and then I pull them out and then I codify them and give them away to you. That's what we're doing here in this podcast. So when I first met my wife, I go, honey, I told her everything because I knew that she was it. And I just got to be fully transparent. I go, look, she goes, what'd you do last night? I go, every Friday night I meet my boys at the Bada Bing in Jersey. It's called Satin Dolls and it's literally the Sopranos. Of course, I got to go to the Sopranos strip club. So that's where we went. Every Friday, hang with my boys. I go, I love it because there's great music. There's women there. And I just told her the truth, right? She goes, look, listen, I want to be clear that this is all fine. If you want to do all that, it's cool, but I'm not your girl. Then it's okay. Because here, I want to put in a few things. If you go to strip clubs, right? I think you're dispersing your attention for sexual energy. And if you're interested in being with me, channel all your sexual energy to me and we're going to have a really great intimate life. I was like, holy shit, that's pretty badass. I don't think that way as a guy. I'm like, I'll do what I want, right? Except, cheat on her, right? But that was the second thing. She goes, you're a charismatic guy. You can get away with anything. I trust you. You're legit. But if you cheat on me, the trust is lost and we're done. Our relationship is built on trust. If you think you're going to cheat on me and come back, it's zero tolerance. It's one and done. You're out. I go, oh shit, okay. And then she goes, the third thing, if you're interested in a mediocre life, I'm not your girl. Forget it. Because I'm not interested in mediocrity. I've already had mediocrity. I want extraordinary. If you want to be adventurous, you want to have fun, you want to not be in my old lady's this and my old man's that. Well, I'm not in those conversations with women. And I'm not going to be beating you up when we're having coffee. I don't talk badly about my man or my men. I want to empower you. But listen, if you're interested in mediocrity, you can forget about it. I said, done. When do you want to get married? Because I'm like, nobody ever set boundaries like that. She put herself in the buyer's position. Fast forward, we were married for 5-6 years and I was drinking because my son had autism and I had alcoholism, autism, and workaholism because I was numbing myself out because I didn't want to be present. She sat me down. She goes, listen, Party Fresh. My nickname's Party Fresh. She goes, Party Fresh, you don't have to quit drinking, but you can't stay here. I'm taking this kid back to New York. We're going to get him healthy. And you can come with me, but I'm not drinking like this anymore like you did last night. And I took a moment and I realized she took me back to what I agreed to. And I said, I'm going to get help right now. We went to New York. My son's off the autism spectrum. He was speech delayed. He's now at Arizona State. He's going to be a sports broadcaster. I'm 17 years sober, and we are like peanut butter and jelly. It's unbelievable. And so this is how you put yourself in the buyer's seat. State the declaration, detach. Remember, when you're in control, you're out of control. When you're out of control, you're in control. And here's what I mean by that. My wife was not in control of the decision I was going to make, but she wasn't going to spend the next however many years we're going to be married. And we've been married 22. She was not going to be in a relationship that sucked. And so she was detached at the front side. And then we just lined up and cranked it out. Now, if you didn't start out your relationships, of course we don't, but you can recover from this by just saying, hey, we're going to start over. I'm taking responsibility. So here's how you do it. I'm going to give you the last bonus tool here. It's called line in the sand. The line in the sand goes like this. You bring your team together, you bring your family together, however you're going to do this, and say, family or team, I just want you to know I'm taking a new level of responsibility in how I'm being a father, how I'm being a husband, or how I'm being a leader. A new level of responsibility. I have to take ownership of how I've been leading this. I've been forcing, I've been micromanaging, I've been controlling. And I know that that affects you in many ways where you're not fully expressed, you feel squashed, we're not connected, and you're not fully operating at your full potential. And I want you to know, I am here. This is the first day of the new step forward. Now, I might fall backward and start controlling again, but I need your help. I'm going to ask you for your help. If you find me controlling, please call me out. Let me know, because I'm going to do everything I can to change, because I don't want to live like this and I want to scale this business, or I want to be connected to you as a family. And so, do you agree? Julie, do you agree? Ryan, do you agree? Ava, do you agree? And you get agreement. Now you're operating from agreement and say, please have compassion with me. Now, this is your vulnerability. You're going to start being vulnerable with people. When you're vulnerable with people, you don't lose control. You earn their respect and their trust. And when you call yourself out, it allows you to operate at a new level of connection with your family and your team at work. Listen, control doesn't create success. Trust does. And we can't go from controlling and dictatorship to a business that is detached and being in the buyer's seat. It's going to take you a little work. You can get there. Here's what I want you to do. If you're ready to break free from the need of control and want a new level of leadership, get on my calendar. We'll talk about it, and I can help bring this to your business. We can talk about that. And then please subscribe to the episode. And if you have an entrepreneur that you know that could help, that's a control freak like us, send him this episode so that he can get access to it. Because our job is here's the thing. You don't want to hold on to what you have. You want to give it away. That's how you keep it. See, I stayed sober for 17 years by giving away my sobriety to other men and helping them get sober. I want you to begin to get, instead of being a taker, be a giver. It's the give and take. Give away everything you can and you'll get everything you want. See you on the next episode, where we're going to talk about the fear of being found out, imposter syndrome for high achieving, entrepreneurial badasses. I'll see you when I see you.